Hello all and welcome to the Rails Board Orientation Meeting. Today is Friday, July 26th, 2024. I'm Alex Vancina, President of the Board, and I call this meeting to order at 9:33 a.m. Emily, would you please call roll?
Monica Caldecott, Jean Carroll, Jennifer Cutshall, Anupam Goel, Gwen Gregory, Diane Hollister,
Here.
Jennifer Hovanek, Amanda Kowalski,
Here.
Renee Leva,
Here.
Julie Milivek, Emily Porter, Alex Vancina,
Here.
Vanessa Villarreal, Karen Boydick,
Here.
and Catherine Yanikowski.
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Thanks, Emily. We'll handle guests and public comments at the same time, starting here in Burr Ridge.
Monica Harris, Rails.
Joe Philippek, Rails.
Emily Feister Rails,
Mark at Rails.
Kate Nehoff, Rails.
Dan Bostrom, Rails.
Sam Bailey, Rails. Sharon Swanson, Rails. Layla Heath, Rails.
Brian Hemmel, Rails.
Are there any public comments here in Burr Ridge? Hearing none, Emily, would you please read the names of any guests attending via Zoom?
Barb Miller, Demond Warfield, and Mary Hudspeth. All
Thank you.
Rails.
Any public comments from Zoom participants?
No, we did not.
If not, have we received any by email? Thanks, Emily. Next is Monica with welcome and introductions.
Well, thank you, Alex, and welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for your time today and for being here, and of course, for volunteering your time as a member of the Rails board. Today is really intended to be a general overview of Rails. You'll hear a lot today, and so some things may stick with you right away. Some of them you may hear a few times before you start to understand, but what we've tried to do is to really incorporate a lot of information that we can share and give you a lot of time to ask questions and have some other opportunity to share your own reasons for being here. So with that, what we really wanted to start with was an opportunity for you all to introduce yourselves to one another. We'd like, if you wouldn't mind, to be able to share kind of your name, the library that you're representing, and then your reasons for wanting to serve on the Rails board. I will go ahead and start just with some of my background to share a little bit of that for you, and then we will move to Alex and then go around the table. So my name is Monica Harris. I'm the executive director here at Rails. I've been with Rails since 2020 and previously as the associate executive director, and I began as the executive director in February of 2023. Previous to my experience here with the library system, I was in public libraries for about 20 years, and my most recent position was as the executive director of the Schaumburg Township District Library. I'm really excited to be able to continue my work here at Rails. We do really interesting work and we do really wonderful opportunities to support libraries of all types throughout Illinois. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Alex to go next.
Thanks, Monica. I'm Alex Vancina. I've been on the Rails board since 2020. I represent the New Lenox Public Library as a trustee from their board. Here, I'm also a librarian. I work at the Helen Plum Library in Lombard. I've been in Illinois libraries for about 22 years now, so spent my entire career in Rails libraries and predecessor systems. So when I joined the New Lenox board and saw there were openings for trustees to run for the Rails board, I was very interested in getting involved and giving back, especially since I've benefited so much from the programs and services that Rails offers in my career.
Morning, my name is Anupam Goel. I represent the Clarendon Hills Library. I've been on their board for 4 years now. I'm the president of their group, and I saw this opportunity to be part of the Rails organization. We take a lot of content from Rails to reach out to our patrons. We're very proud of that, and we'd like to learn more about how to contribute to that world. That's why we're here.
Hi, I'm Diane Hollister, and I've been on Rails since 2019. And I'm a librarian, I'm retired, of course, and I worked at all types of libraries, public, academic, and special. Right now, I'm volunteering at a museum in Bloomington at the McLean County Museum. And in my other life, I was a reference librarian and a youth services librarian. I served on ILA board back in, well, some years ago. Anyway, I was encouraged to run for Rails. This is when I became a trustee at the Bloomington Public Library. And so I think name recognition when I was on ILA probably helped because I live in central Illinois and we don't see each other very much. So there's no one really to talk to or connect with unless you want to travel where the crow flies far. So, but I enjoy this. It's been a wonderful experience and I've got to know many people while I was on ILA and Rails as well. A lot of fun, eye-opening. I remember some during my first meeting, the orientation, some of the facts that Deirdre told us that she shared, my jaw dropped because I guess living in a bubble in central Illinois, I took it for granted that all libraries had public access catalogs. And they said no. Some of them at that time had not been automated. Anyway, welcome aboard. And today's my birthday. I have mentioned.
Amanda Kowalski, it's not my birthday. I'm the library director at Library District, where I've been for 3 years. I'm a huge fan of Rails and the way that they support networking, continuing education, resource sharing. So when I saw the opportunity to run for the Rails board, I jumped on it.
Hi, my name is Emily Porter. I'm the director at the Byron Public Library, which is southwest of Rockford. When I saw that there were openings, I thought that it was important that a small rural representative jump on the board. I think it adds a little bit to the Collier County representation that's on here, besides Diane, of course, but
Hi, I'm Jenny Kajal. I'm also a librarian, but I am not here in that capacity on the board. I am a trustee at the Homewood Public Library. And I've only been there for about a year. I'm really liking it. I guess I like hanging out with other librarians. So this is a good fit for me in that regard. And I'm passionate about our profession. This is a way for me to channel that.
I'm Karen Voidick. This is my second term at Rails. I'm from Homewood, which is really funny.
Well, you both are.
Yeah. That's where I grew up. I went to Homewood High School. But I live in Shorewood now. I'm a trustee on the Shorewood board. Gosh, for like 9 years now. And I'm president of our friends group too. So I was encouraged to join and rejoin Rails because it's just very interesting to me to see how the political side of all this works and then bring it back to my library and share it. So I really enjoy my time out there. Probably I'm the only one that isn't a librarian. Oh, but I spend a ton of time at the library, so no one knows the difference.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I work as a special librarian at Engineering Systems Incorporated, which is right where Aurora and Naperville kind of intersect. I've been in special libraries for almost 3 years now, but prior to that, I was at public libraries for 20 years and school libraries before that. So I started working in the Rails area almost 30 years ago. And I was a page of Frankfurt Public Library in the mid-90s. And I've stayed in libraries ever since in a variety of roles. And when I was in my 20s, I was encouraged to participate as much as possible in anything that was at the regional and statewide level. And so I started at school library seat on the board of PALS, was PALS at that time, Prairie Area Library System. And so I've been so pleased to be part of the Rails board. As part of PALS, I was part of the merger design team for Rails. So Rails' first board meeting was the first board meeting that I was no longer on a library system board at the time. So this has been really special for me to be able to be part of board this library system at this time. So welcome. Very nice to meet all.
My name is Renee Leva. I'm the library. Oh, they changed my title too. I just forgot. I'm the executive director of the Fossil Ridge Public Library District. We represent 10 different communities in 3 different counties. It's a lot of fun. Turning in all that paperwork in 3 different counties. I went into the library world not because I wanted to in the beginning. It was actually both my sisters are they've been in the field since they were 16, and they were the ones that encouraged me to enter it. Actually, both of them are. One works at the Palos Heights Public Library as the head of cataloging, and the other one's the head of cataloging circulation at the Elsa Public Library. A very proud brother. Let's see, what else? Big support and advocate of libraries. I've been in the committee for conferences for ILA this year and last year because, you know, there's nothing else to do, right? And then this year I started the advocacy committee for ILA. So that's a 3-year turn. I'm always excited to get here. I just love, and I'll make a spiel later, but we have a lot of talented people here, and it's amazing just to see them work, and just grateful to just have a lot of leaders here, and especially Monica here. Welcome.
Can I introduce yourself?
Hi. My name is Jen Hovanek, and my participation in Rails is as a trustee for the Villa Park Public Library. But my joke is that by day, I am the executive director of the LaGrange Public Library. So I get to do that really cool thing where you get to be on both sides of the table. I've been in libraries for 14 years. I've worked as far north as Deerfield and as far south as New Lenox. So I've been everywhere and I've done everything. And networking is my jam. So getting to do all of this and being an advocate for something I'm very passionate about is very important to me. And I'm eager to get to work with all our new people. And yeah, is that enough? Very good.
Thank you all for taking the time to introduce yourselves. Our staff are going to introduce themselves shortly. But first, we wanted the opportunity to be able to show you a little video. Our communications team put this video together last year as kind of an overview of what Rails does. It's meant as an opportunity to just hear kind of big picture, and then we'll certainly open it up for questions. But just before we start the video, I did want to thank you for sharing your stories. You can see there's a lot of expertise in this room and a lot of perspectives. We really rely on the board to be able to share their experience and their perspective so that we as an organization can continue to move forward and support and represent our members in the ways that we need to. So thank you for what you're bringing today, and thank you for sharing that as well. Emily, are you going to share the video? Or, oh, Brian is, sorry. Okay.
Hello, I'm Monica Harris, the Executive Director of Rails, the Reaching Across Illinois Library System. Welcome to the Rails Board. We're so pleased to have you join us. We developed this video to help new board members learn more about Rails, Illinois library systems in general, and service on the Rails Board. It can also serve as a good refresher for all Rails board members. First, a bit of history. Prior to 1965, there was very little cooperation between libraries in Illinois. This all changed in August of that year when the Illinois System Act became law. This act encourages cooperation between all Illinois libraries. The act also led to the creation of library systems. By July 1967, there were 18 public library systems in Illinois. In 1983, the System Act was changed to recognize multi-type library systems. A multi-type system includes academic, public, school, and specialized libraries. By 1990, all Illinois library systems were multi-type, except the Chicago Public Library System. The number of systems has decreased over the years, and there are now 3 systems in Illinois. On July 1st, 2011, Rails was formed from the merger of 5 systems in the northern and western parts of the state. The Illinois Heartland Library System was formed from the merger of 4 systems in the southern portion. The 3rd system is Chicago Public Library System, which includes the main Chicago Public Library building and all its branches. Rails serves libraries of all types across a 27,000 square mile area. This includes academic, school, and specialized libraries in the city of Chicago. Rails is funded by an annual grant from the Illinois State Library through the Secretary of State's office. Our fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. We submit an annual area and per capita grant application to the State Library by June 1st each year. The Rails Board reviews and approves the area and per capita grant application at their May meeting. This includes an operational plan highlighting our planned activities for the coming fiscal year and a budget. The operational plan is based on the Rails strategic plan, which you'll be hearing about later. Rails is governed by a 15-member board. The law dictates that 8 of those board seats be filled by public library trustees. There is also a specific seat for academic, school, and specialized libraries, as well as 4 at-large seats that can be filled by public library trustees or staff from any type of library. The Rails Board job description outlines the general duties and requirements for board members. These include actively participating in 11 board meetings a year, establishing and approving Rails policies, hiring the Rails executive director, and acting as ambassadors for Rails by promoting our programs and services to staff and trustees at Rails member libraries. All board members sign the job description at the beginning of their service to indicate that they have read and understand it. The executive committee includes the board president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and 1 additional board member. Rails board members are also asked to serve on at least 1 committee. These committees sometimes change depending on the priorities of the current board. Rails has approximately 93 employees. About half of these employees are delivery staff. We have 5 service centers located across our area. Our Burr Ridge Service Center is our administrative headquarters. Our other service centers include Bolingbrook, Cole Valley, East Peoria, and Rockford. Rails serves approximately 1,268 member library agencies. A library agency is the main academic, public, or specialized library building, or the main school district office. There are approximately 3,744 individual buildings, branches, and schools in Rails. School libraries represent the largest portion of our membership, though public libraries generally use Rails programs and services the most. We're working to even out that usage a bit more and to ensure that our members know about the different services that we offer. Board members can help with this effort as they act as ambassadors for Rails. All of the programs and services Rails offers flow from our strategic plan. The Rails Board approved our current strategic plan in January 2022. The Rails strategic plan includes our mission statement, which is "We connect libraries." It also includes our vision statement, which is "Thriving libraries are essential to all who learn, live, or work in Illinois." The Rails strategic plan has 4 major goals. The first goal is Rails provides leadership in ensuring sustainable, equitable resource sharing for all member libraries. This goal includes a variety of resource sharing initiatives. It includes delivery, which may be our most well-known service. It includes networking activities because Rails considers it important to share knowledge and best practices as well as library materials. It also includes the discounts we offer to member libraries, support for shared online catalogs, and a variety of e-initiatives, including Find More Illinois, eRead Illinois, Inky.org, and Explore More Illinois. You'll be hearing more about all of our services throughout the year. Strategic Plan Goal 2 is Rails models best practices in equity, diversity, accessibility, and inclusion, or EDI for short. Rails considers it very important to model EDI best practices for our members and to support their EDI efforts. We offer a variety of continuing education opportunities focused on this topic. We have an EDI mailing list for our members to share what they are doing in this area. We also have a world language cataloging services program that is available to libraries statewide. Internally, we have a staff workplace climate team that plans activities to help Rails staff learn more about EDI. We also work hard to make sure we have as diverse a Rails board as possible. This includes diversity in a number of areas, such as race, ethnicity, geographic area served, age, and library staff position. Strategic Plan Goal 3 is Rails assists libraries in preparing for the future. This goal includes our very popular continuing education program. We offer a variety of in-person and virtual workshops for all levels of staff at all types of libraries. We also offer trustee training opportunities. This goal also includes our My Library Is initiative. This campaign is designed to help all libraries to tell their stories more effectively and to demonstrate their value so they will receive appropriate levels of funding and other support. Goal 3 also includes a variety of other advocacy-related activities, such as our project to gather reliable data on school libraries so we can help ensure their survival, some consulting services, and other initiatives to keep our members up to date on the latest trends and challenges affecting libraries. Strategic Plan Goal 4 is Rails leads alongside member libraries to develop and strengthen the Illinois library community and expand services to all. This goal is about partnerships and collaboration. Rails has many statewide partners, and we work with them on projects of interest to all Illinois libraries whenever possible. Goal 4 also addresses the need to ensure that libraries of all types and sizes know about the programs and services Rails offers to benefit them. It also includes our efforts to achieve universal library service in Illinois. There are currently over 1 million Illinois residents who do not have access to library service, and we would like to see this change. This concludes our very brief introduction to Rails and what it means to be a member of the Rails board. Rest assured, you will be hearing a lot more about these topics as your service on the board continues. I am always available to answer any questions you have at any time. Thank you again for being part of the Rails board. We're so happy that you've joined us as we all work together to improve library service for all.
That was a really good video, Mom.
Well, our communications team put that together. So thank you. But any questions or anything that came up about that came up from the video today for right now? Oh, a billion all over the state. And we can show you some mapping that actually shows that. But yeah, and people think of that sometimes as being rural spaces, which there are. If you look at the map, sometimes some large rural spaces, but even in Chicagoland, we had a long conversation about this at dinner last night with our group that got together, that sometimes it's street by street, and there's all kinds of challenges that come with not having library service available. So our Universal Services Committee works on that issue regularly, but it's definitely a priority of the whole board to make sure that that's addressed by the state. Yeah, a huge issue. Well, what I wanted to do is to have the opportunity to introduce our amazing staff to you. They're going to tell you a little bit about what each of them do. Throughout the year during the board meetings, we have a service of the month presentation. So you'll hear from them again to hear a little bit more in detail about the projects that they're working on and hear more about their staff. But for today, we just wanted the opportunity to introduce them to you so you can put a face with a name and hear a little bit about what happens in their area. So we're going to start here with Joe.
Morning, everybody. So Joe Philippak, Associate Executive Director. It's nice seeing several of you at dinner last night. I've been at Rails for going on 11 years in November. Most of that time was spent as Director of Consulting and Continuing Education until we upgraded and got Kate. I have now been in the position of Associate Executive Director for the past year. So as Associate Executive Director, I provide oversight to a few of what are most core sort of services to libraries. Those include library programs, library resources and programs, our facilities and delivery operation, and consulting and continuing education. As Associate ED, of course, I would take on acting director when Monica is taking some very well-deserved vacation time or is otherwise unavailable. So I just want to extend, if any of you, when Monica is unavailable, do feel free to reach out to me at any point. In addition to that, I'm involved with several different Rails board committees, most notably Resource Sharing Committee, EDI committee and Universal Service Committee. So I certainly look forward to working with many of you on those board committees. Prior to Rails, I worked in public libraries for about a dozen years, both in Naperville and Warrenville. Also, I have the pleasure of serving as president of the Aurora Public Library District board currently. So just to build off of what Renee said about the talented staff here at Rails, I would also extend that to you all as board members, that we have a lot of individuals that bring so much expertise and are leaders in their own communities. So we are grateful for you for serving on this board, and I look forward to getting to work with each of you. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Emily Feister. I'm the executive assistant here at Rails. I've been here since December of 2013. I came from municipal background, no library experience, except for obviously going to the library all the time. It's universal. Everyone loves libraries. It's a beautiful thing. We have a staff of 4 other administrative assistants and program coordinators, and they also staff the committees, hopefully, that you'll be a part of. And we are involved in every single aspect of Rails. There's not a program or anything that happens in Rails that we're not a part of, and we're very happy to do that. So welcome.
Mark, do you mind starting us off on the well?
Good morning. My name is Mark Hatch, and I've been here a little over almost 13 years. And I manage the deliveries and then all of the facilities. As Monica mentioned earlier, we do have 5 facilities here within Rails. Burr Ridge, which is our corporate office, East Peoria, Coal Valley, Rockford, and which one did I miss? Bolingbrook. Great, there we go. I wish we could get Bolingbrook in the but you know, manage all the deliveries. We run about 600 deliveries per day, you know, and I'm not a librarian either. I came from the armored car industry. So in my world, logistics is logistics, you know, so just a different way of moving things. You know, so, and Alex, I love the beard.
I'm Ann Slaughter. I'm the Director of Technology Services here at Rails. I started a month after Emily, so we had a little wave happening then. I oversee the IT department, the data team, and the cataloging services manager. And I'm also responsible for our support to the Shared Catalog Consortia in Rails, otherwise known as LSAPs. And I'm going to be telling you a lot more about all of that next month. And as part of that, I work with the Rails Board Consortia Committee. And I also oversee the L2 platform. It's the library learning calendar and directory. And finally, I work on all of our kind of digital equity initiatives, which is a growing area for us right now. And before I was at Rails, I was a public librarian.
I'm Kate Niehoff. I am the Director of Consulting and Continuing Education here. I just started at the beginning of the year, so I'm fairly new to coming from public libraries, mostly in programming, outreach, and community engagement. And our consulting and CE team puts on all of our continuing education for members. We also collaborate with organizations statewide on things like Directors University, which is coming up next week. We put together training for staff members here at Rails. And on the consulting side, we just offer support for library staff on whatever they need support with. So looking forward to getting to know all of you.
Hi, I'm Dan Bostrom. I'm the Rails Director of Marketing and Communications. The Rails Communications team is a 5-person team. We do a lot. You know, our main goal is to make sure that we're getting the messages out to the libraries that need them. And that includes things like our e-news, which is our primary vehicle for communicating with staff at member libraries, our great social media, our wonderful website, the email lists that people participate in, the peer-to-peer sharing that happens in those email lists, networking, site visits, our presence at conferences, video projects, as you saw, and a whole host of other things that we do. But we really have we're lucky because we have a a global view of the organization and kind of what's going on, and getting to work with everybody here and supporting their messages, getting to you folks.
Hi, I am Sam Daly. I am the Director of Human Resources. I have actually had many roles. I've been here since 2024, 2014. I've been here almost 10 years. I've had various roles such as HR generalist. I was the HR manager and just most recently got promoted to the Human Resources Director. I have been in HR since I was maybe 15 years old. That was my first role. So I'm not going to say my age, but you know, it's quite some time I've been doing HR. My department, we're a department of 3. Is myself, a human resources assistant and a human resources coordinator. We're responsible for all HR functions at Rails, which is consistent with organizational policies, and objectives, as well as being compliant with state and federal regulations. We also deal with a lot of employee relations, performance management, leave administration, payroll administration, talent acquisition and recruitment. And you guys probably all know what HR really does, but a plethora of things. But the overall thing is to, while we're protecting the employer, the goal is to advocate for the employee. And that's probably the core of what I'm here for. So I love that they're doing this orientation to get to know you guys. And I'm glad you're able to meet us and get to know us. And I look forward to getting to know you guys more as we go through.
Sharon Swanson, I am finance director. I've been here 12 and a half years, which is a little shocking because it feels like I've been here at an age where.
Mike popping.
Do not know why it's popping. I have to be
Turn it
nice
off.
because I don't project. So let me turn that off to avoid the popping, and I will just speak louder. I've been here about 12 and a half years. I supervise a team of 4 very talented accountants, and we do all of the things that you would imagine accounting does, paying the bills, invoicing all of our member libraries, cutting grant checks to our member libraries for the programs we administer, and doing all of the reporting and the accounting for Rails, as well as 2 of the 6 local library system automation programs, or LSAPs, that Anne had mentioned that we support. So myself, you'll be getting a lot of opportunities to interact with me because I present at every board meeting. I present the financial reports and the list of disbursements. And I also, in consort with Monica and in alignment with our strategic plan and our operational plan, prepare the budget and budget commentary. That's part of your that's part of the area per capita grant application, which goes to the state library that's presented in May. I also coordinate the annual financial audits that are a component of our annual report to the state library. And those are presented to the board for acceptance at your September meeting. In addition to interacting with staff internally and working with all of the departments within Rails, I ensure compliance with accounting standards, policies, our internal controls that we have in place. And I also maintain strategic relationships with our audit partners, our banking partners, and our insurance providers and partners. In addition to these internal projects, I also serve as treasurer on the Limerick board. And I have to look at what this is exactly called because the library world has a lot of acronyms. And a lot of them are confusing. So it's the Library Insurance Management and Risk Control Combination is what that stands for.
It's something poetry association.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? But a little shameless plug for Limerick, we do save libraries money because we collaborate together and go in as a pool together for staff health, dental, vision, and life insurance. And we also have an arm that administers your unemployment insurance. So that's just about it for me.
I'm Layla Heath. I actually started my career in business, and I was in business for 7 years as a retail buyer, but always had a passion for libraries and really then moved over into the library world, which has been the absolute best place to be. So I worked in public libraries for about 20 years and then came to Rails in 2019. So I have been here 5 years. And one of the areas that I work on is deals and discounts. So that retail background comes in handy for some of those responsibilities. But my team also works on some of the statewide programs. So we do eRead Illinois, which includes which is our e-content program. And we also do Inky.org. And then we also, in my area, is Find More Illinois, which is the interlibrary loan platform. And that just actually recently came into my area. Ann Slaughter and her team handed it over and really have really set us up to, I think, do some exciting things. So, and then Explore More, which is our cultural pass program, is also in my area. So we have a lot of exciting things going on in these areas, a lot of member engagement. We've got a lot of people participating in it, get lots of feedback and ideas about moving forward. So you'll be hearing more from each of these areas throughout the year.
Ryan, do you want to just say hi? And
I'm right. I've also been here for about 10 years. Got hired early 2014. I'm one of a 5-person team in IT. I'm generally the person who handles the user accounts and the day-to-day management of the help desk and tickets and emails. So generally, if you have issues, you probably come to me first unless I'm busy. But yeah, if you have any questions, concerns, you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to help.
Thank you all for the introductions. I did want to open it up in case anyone had any questions or comments about anything that they heard so far from the team. Yeah.
When I first joined the Rails board, I really didn't understand how a lot of things worked. So when we would get the packet and I would read it and I would be confused on anything, I emailed everyone. What does this mean? What does that mean? They really are open to you contacting them, any one of them. So if you do have any kind of questions or you just don't understand something, you can wait and do it during the board meeting. But if you just really want to know something ahead of time, you just email whoever, Monica, and she'll put you through to the right person. So don't feel bad because I've asked everything.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
At that point, I'm one of the few people who weren't a librarian. The references to the state library and then
Yes.
the reference to Rails, and I wasn't clear about the relationship between the two.
Yes. So, so if you look at kind of the structure in Illinois, the Illinois State Library is under the side of the state library that reports to the Illinois Secretary of State, Alexi Janulius, who also serves in Illinois as the state librarian. So Illinois State Library reports to Alexi Janulius. Alexi Janulius also includes in his budget anything that is related to the Illinois State Library. The Illinois State Library then has grants that fund the system. So the grant that we receive as part of this area and per capita grant process comes directly from the Illinois State Library. When you look at our resources, and Sharon will do a more detailed piece of the budget later this afternoon, you'll see that we have other revenue streams that are not just coming from the Illinois State Library, but by and large, they fund the largest portion of our operations.
Alexis has no library experience. She's really an elected officer.
Yes. Yes. And anyone who's elected to that position of Secretary of State serves as the state librarian in Illinois.
But he's done a lot for libraries.
He loves
At times he's been here. Yeah.
He was running, he wrote a memo. Librarian, it was I love that.
It's previous to Alexi Janulius, Jesse White was the Secretary of State for some time and also did a lot of wonderful things for libraries. But I think that we've seen a lot of energy sort of injected over the last couple of years over the kind of support that can happen for libraries at the state level, especially legislatively. And so there's been a lot of support both through legislation and then also potential financial support. And the statewide online databases piece was put into Secretary Janulius's budget in his first year based on some feedback that came from the transitions team. But Rails had been advocating heavily for that program since 2019. So some of the people who supported those efforts were on the transitions team and pushed for that. So we're very, very grateful for that kind of support because it does help all libraries, but we are also directly funded by them. Does that answer the question? Okay.
Things I wanted to say that dovetails with what was remarked earlier was the beauty of Rails is even I was out of my element coming on and I had a lot of questions. What was helpful, what is helpful is everybody is a mentor here because you can turn to someone and if they don't know, they'll find out. And another great thing is you're always left with your dignity, even if you ask the most strange question. And tailing on to the Alexi Giuliani, when we met him last year at ILA at the conference in Springfield, I had my picture taken with him and he is very tall and I'm very short. I said, come here. And so he bent down. Yes, and I said, if it wasn't for the Secretary of State's office, I said back in the day when another Secretary of State was there. They had the Illinois Secretary of State scholarship, become a librarian. And you could have the choice of either going to what was then Rosary College or U of I. And thank heaven I was put in the direction right before I went on this odyssey of librarianship. And I said, can you get this going again? Because sometimes someone, I don't know if it's because fiscal problems in Illinois was no longer there, because I would really encourage people who would stop by the desk at Bradley and say, I want to do what you do. You know, how did you get involved? I said, because of the Illinois State Scholarship. And he said, I'm going to really try for that. And then when I saw him the rest of the evening, I, gave him the side eye.
That's why it's running.
Can I just mention something?
Of course.
One thing that I think sometimes is a common conception of our members is membership with the system is completely free. You do not pay any fees to be a member of Rails. You pay some fees to be part of services that Rails provides, but membership with us is free. And sometimes people get a little confused between, what is Rails and Swan, and you do pay for Swan and PrairieCAD and RSA and things like that. We'll cover that more, but membership with Rails, we don't take any dues from our members.
Thank you for pointing, and that is where that funding comes directly from the state. So it's paid for by taxes, and that's the work that we do, which is why our members don't pay to be a part of Rails, because that's part of these systems that are in place.
Oh, sorry. Are all schools members of Rails?
As long as they have adhered to our membership standards, which we'll talk about in some more detail in terms of what that is, you have to have certain things in order to be able to qualify as a school library that can be a Rails member, but they are all eligible. So not every school is a member, but there are many, many, as you can see those numbers there.
We've calculated it at like 80% of the public school districts in our service area are members of the system.
We do have private schools as well.
Our private school district is.
And in order to qualify for things like the per capita grant money, they do have to be members of the system. Okay, well, we're going to have lots of time for questions. So if things come up or there's other things that you're thinking about, please by all means share. What we wanted to do is to have an opportunity to kind of go through this folder that you have in front of you, just to share what's in here. We'll do this at a little bit of a clip instead of in great detail, but just know these resources are available to you to look at in more detail when you have the bandwidth and the time to do so. Also, if you're interested in revisiting the orientation video that you saw earlier, that's available on the Rails YouTube site, along with lots of other meetings. So if you ever wanted to go back and watch some of the meetings of the board previous that you've missed, you're more than welcome to do that. Our meetings are not the same from year to year, but we do follow some general structures, as you kind of saw in the video. In May, we're often approving, those operational plans and the budget. And so you can go back from year to year and kind of see how things have been approached in the past if you have the interest. But so starting on sort of the left side of your folder, the first thing that you'll see there is the Rails board member job description. And that really just goes through the details of your expectations as a board member here at Rails. The things that we shared with you in the video are certainly in here as well. And if you are a new board member and you haven't signed this yet, someone will approach you about getting a signature for this sheet that you see here once you've read through it and agree to the job description there. I'm not going to talk in detail about things like travel reimbursement and attendance because we're going to revisit that a little bit later in the agenda. But anything that we will share with you here is again in this sheet on the Rails board and committee member information that you have there. Next, we have an acronym glossary. So as Sharon mentioned, librarians use a lot of acronyms. What we've tried to do is create kind of a general list of things that you may see over and over again so that you can look at them. We also make a real effort to try to spell things out and share them. But if we have forgotten and you don't know what something is, this is another resource that you can look at to try to do that. But of course, feel free to reach out, ask questions so that we can explain those in more detail. Next is the 10 things to know about the Open Meetings Act and public comment at meetings. This was prepared by Julie Tappendorf of Ansel Glink and really who serve as our legal counsel here at Rails. It's just meant to show you kind of the obligations that we have under the Open Meetings Act and how we have to make sure that we're compliant in terms of public comments to make sure that we're doing all those things right. So if you wouldn't mind taking the time to read through those. I know many of you are familiar with that because of your relationships as trustees or other work that you do in libraries, but this just serves as a reminder for all the things that we have to abide by. Next in there is a sheet on L2. L2 is something that Anne mentioned earlier. It's really important to have an account in L2. This is what sort of unlocks the Rails website. So I know many of you probably already have this. You'll also have, I believe it's called a profile or an affiliation perhaps as a Rails board member. And so that will allow you access to see some things that you haven't seen before. So we want to make sure that you have that. Yes, Emily.
Or it has been set up.
I think it's already set up in your account. So you should have that there. So if you want to just double check it and make sure that you see it, that will make sure that you have access to the things that we want you to have and see. But there are details on how to create an L2 account if you don't have one, so that you can do that for the first time, as well as looking at affiliations and how to add any additional profile information that you might need to add. But if you have any questions about this at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Next in your folder are some kind of detailed descriptions of all of our committees. And so because each board member, as you saw in the orientation video, has an obligation to serve on at least one committee, we want to kind of describe some of these for you now so you get a sense of what each one does. We will be talking about committee assignments in our business meeting in the afternoon a little bit, so you can see where there might be some openings if there's something that you might be interested in. But for right now, we just kind of want to describe the work of each committee so you get a sense of what they do. So the first is our Rails Advocacy Committee. This committee currently meets every other month. And they discuss issues related to potential advocacy issues across Illinois. They discuss in detail some of the things that are happening legislatively in Illinois, and we report on things that happen at the Illinois Library Association's Public Policy Committee meeting and advocacy meetings when that's relevant. Just this year, we recently added twice a year reports at the American Library Association level. So we add reports that go before ALA Council from the group on legislation that comes through federally, as well as intellectual freedom and the Freedom to Read Foundation. So you can be engaged with those issues as well as receive some reporting kind of every year or every month from different service areas that have been identified by the committee as things they'd like to hear more about, so that they can be advocates for those issues that are happening. Anything you'd add there? I know Catherine serves for that committee. Okay. The Rails Consortia Committee is our committee that's focused on that consortia or LSAP support. So Resource sharing through those shared catalogs is a really important part of what Rails wants to support. If you look at kind of our statistics and the way that material moves through the state, those kind of shared catalogs that happen through the LSAPs really drive a lot of the resource sharing that happens across the state. And so this meeting, which happens quarterly, is meant to address the issues that are important to consortia, as well as things that they may not want to know about what's happening in Rails. Anything you would note or add in terms of that work? It's a very interesting committee, and there's a lot of work that happens there, but you'll see in the charge, that's one that has a limited number of members from Rails that can serve on it at any given time because of the way that it's been built in the membership. Next is the Rails Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. This is the newest committee to Rails, but it's still been around for, I think, more than 3 years now. So that group is discussing all issues related to equity, diversity, inclusion, and now accessibility. They give support and advocacy on how Rails can serve our members regarding those issues. And that group had a big turnover over the last year because they decided as part of their charge that because of the interest across the membership in participating on this committee, that they wanted an opportunity for people to cycle out after 1 or 2 terms. So that is one that definitely needs some additional board representation. So if that is something that's interesting to you, I would definitely encourage you to let us know. Next is the Rails Executive Committee. This is a committee that's specifically made up of the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and 1 additional director elected by the board of directors, which will come up in our afternoon meeting today. This group does not meet regularly, but they meet when there's a need. So the executive committee might meet if they need to make an appointment to the board committee because someone has had to leave the board and we need to appoint a new member. They met a lot when they were hiring an executive director. This was the group that handled a lot of that work. But so they meet on an as needed basis, and it really just depends on the work of what's happening at Rails throughout the year. Next is our Rails Policy Committee. This is the committee that's responsible for the work that's happening at a policy level. And this group is working in earnest right now. We are in the midst of a revision of our handbook for Rails. So we are going through policy by policy to recommend new changes and updates. As we started to meet based on the handbook earlier this year, the group also identified some policies that hadn't been updated or reviewed in some time. So in addition to that work on the handbook, they've looked at all of the policies that we've had and recommended some revisions to the Rails board throughout this last year. So there's been a lot of updates to policy, and this group will continue to work in earnest, and we could use a couple more folks working in policy.
I'll add
Yes.
to, that's the fun committee. And the only reason is because of the fact that you also have to remember, there's a lot of public libraries and smaller special libraries that might utilize some of the policies that Rails has. So if you really want to help out other organizations like Atlas, Laconia to assist others, like this is the chance that you can actually add things that would affect other libraries that may be able to grab from here to assist them in their board. So, but it's a lot of fun.
It is fun. It does meet monthly in case that is of interest to folks, but it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of really valuable work, especially from our perspective. To have board members who can comment on some of these pieces coming through is really integral to how we do that work. Next is our Rails Resource Sharing Committee. This group kind of looks at a lot of issues related to resource sharing that are not consortia focused. So things like delivery, our Find More Illinois program, things that are happening in our Deals and Discounts program, those types of resource sharing pieces are primarily the work of this committee. They did look at things like our resource sharing plan last year to get an update of that and make sure that it was in keeping with our current practice. And then they review a lot of those important resource sharing pieces that are happening throughout the year that are goal number 1 in our strategic plan. Universal service is about specifically related to that that group of 1 million people across Illinois who are not served by a library. This group is specifically looking at strategies to try to make that happen. We've got a really activated group, I think, right now who really wants to do some new things. We've been reviewing the last time that the resource sharing plan was updated with new goals in 2020 and updating them on the way that things have changed. And now we're getting more to the point where we're going to be suggesting new things that can happen that Rails can work on related to improving universal service across the state. So if that's something that's interesting to you, that's a great committee to potentially serve on as well. So any questions at all about the committees at this point? We will revisit this afternoon, but if you have any questions about these or you'd like to ask about the meeting schedules or the kind of work that they're specifically working on, don't hesitate to get in touch with me or with Emily, with Joe. We can let you know kind of some of the things that are happening and going on. Okay. Next is our operational plan. So you'll see this kind of big document here. This is our fiscal year 2025 system area and per capita grant application. And it includes a lot, including an operational plan that you'll see is 24 pages long. It's quite long, but it does include all of the things that we have sent to the state library, approved by the board, that says these are the things that the Rails organization is going to be working on through fiscal year 2025. I prepared just a brief slideshow that'll just show you some highlights from this plan. But what I would like to encourage you to do is when you do have the time, read through this in detail, because there's a lot in this plan that I am not going to touch on much today. But we just wanted to give you a little bit of a sense of where things are going, some of the priorities that are happening over the next year. So as you get ready to begin your work here on the Rails board, that you'll have a sense of that. So give me just one moment. Okay. So again, just the highlights, folks. But this first one is really about new ways of keeping members informed. Our members are really engaged with Rails. We're very lucky here at Rails. And of course, that luck comes with lots and lots of years of work of trying to make sure that our members know who we are and what we do. But with some changes in staff, we're looking at some new ways of trying to make sure that we're doing things in new ways that members want to see. And some of these things have a lot to do with our data department. You don't see them here today. They do report to Anne in our new structure that we just updated at the end of last year. But our data team have been doing a lot. They've just kind of joined us over the last few years and have really moved us towards being a more data-driven organization. And we want to extend a lot of the work that they're doing into how members understand and know about Rails. So one thing that is in your packet here, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, is the new Agencies of Impact data report. This is sort of our first kind of large-scale data report about the value of libraries across Illinois. It's intended as an advocacy piece that can be shared with board members, with community members, as something to really understand about how libraries affect the finances here in Illinois and how resource sharing really improves quality of life in Illinois as it relates to libraries. We are also looking at engaging a Rails member-facing data inclusive annual report. This would be more on the calendar year, but this would be the first time we would put something together that would really show the work of Rails and how that work has gone through the year in a way that members can engage with and see. There's a really great report that Wills, which is a group in Wisconsin that's very similar to us, does, that we really admire, and we want to find ways to incorporate some of the things that we do into a similar kind of report so our members can see it. We are also working at further development of Railcar, which is a data collection and analysis piece that's related to that work of the consortia that is reported on at our consortia meetings quarterly, but it's really intended to give the consortia a better understanding of all of the ways that their data collection affects one another and how they can see that and see how that works across Illinois. We are also looking at an update of the Rails resource sharing map. Many of you may know that the resource sharing map that you currently see in our building, I could show you one in my office, was last updated in 2019. There've been a lot of changes in the resource sharing kind of atmosphere since then, and we are moving that from kind of a print object to a live map that can be updated regularly in ArcGIS. So our data team has been working on being able to understand that software so that our resource sharing map can move into that environment, and we're expecting to see that coming forward this year. We are also continuing to promote and improve the school library advocacy through Education Project, which you probably hear about as SLATE regularly. That project shares information about school libraries across Illinois, and just in terms of a little bit bit of history there. We were contacted a few years ago by Keith Curry Lance, who does a lot of research nationally about school libraries, and they were missing a lot of data, so they didn't have a way to be able to tell the story of what was happening in school libraries. But he contacted us and ISLE, the school library advocacy organization, because of all the missing data across the country. Half of it was in Illinois. They were missing that much data from agencies in Illinois. And so the SLATE project was born under the direction of Jeanette Durucki, who's part of our data team. And that has been able to finally provide an understanding of exactly how many certified school librarians are in Illinois, how many schools have libraries, what their budgets are, and have it in a table where everybody can see and understand it. So I would encourage you to take a look at what's happened there, but we're going to be continuing to improve that project and also work on advocacy tools that are related to that project in the coming year. In terms of Rails infrastructure and training, as I mentioned early on, I became the executive director in February of 2023, and we have had some kind of movement and change since then, just related to some shifting of positions and retirements. And so last year was really a year of hiring, of looking at organizational structure, and of building the organization in that sense. This year, we're focused a lot on general infrastructure and really making sure that we have the tools to make sure that our staff have what they need in terms of continuing education and training and in other pieces. So these are just some updates that are related to that staff infrastructure. We are updating our staff training model, including quarterly supervisor staff trainings. We just had our very first one recently that was focused on EDI for supervisors, but we're going to be looking at updating regularly with those quarterly trainings for skills that are really going to support the things that our supervisors on staff need. We're also looking at the development of a safety team or safety huddles and incorporation of regular safety training for all staff. We've begun to do that at our monthly staff meetings, but we do want to make sure that we are regularly and with intention looking at all of the opportunities to make sure our staff have the best safety training possible. Our delivery team is going to receive some focused EDI training. So there's some development on that level that's specifically focused on our delivery staff. Our delivery staff, just because of the natures of their positions, have a bit more turnover than we see in other areas of the staff. And so that means they may have missed out on trainings that were received from the rest of the staff a year ago or 2 years ago. And so we want to have something that's shorter form, but able to be incorporated into onboarding and other ways of making sure that people get that. So we're working on that for this year. As we mentioned, we're doing a lot of continued work on policy, including our staff handbook, which takes a lot of energy, but is really an important way to support our staff infrastructure. And then developing a succession plan for Rails with the Rails board. So making sure we have a formalized plan that's approved by the board for succession here at Rails. Delivery is an important service, and it's one that many of our members see as our most visible service. Those blue bins are a big part of how they understand Rails and the work that Rails does. So in terms of the work that's related to that delivery group, for those of you who have not been a part of the board before, vehicle purchasing has been very difficult over the last few years. A lot of that is because of the things that have happened with supply chain. So even as we had funding to purchase vehicles, we were unable to purchase the vehicles that we wanted. It wasn't available through a state contract. This last year was the first year since 2020 that we were able to purchase new vehicles. But because of the aging of the fleet related to our inability to be able to replace them over that period of time, we have a lot of work to do to get our fleet where we want it to be. So it will help us in many ways. If you look at our repair budget over last year, we were of course spending a lot of money on repairs for vehicles that had over 200,000 plus miles on them. And so we're trying to work gradually at replacing our fleet and have a replacement system that is sustainable and that we can make sure that we do. So that continues to be a high priority for our delivery group. We're also working with the Rails Consortia Committee to explore updated reporting options for the quarterly delivery count. This is a request that came out of Consortia where they wondered if we could look at reports to try to avoid having to do the quarterly delivery count for those who are in Consortia. What we don't know is how accurate that reporting is compared to the quarterly delivery count. So this requires a lot of work from our teams to try to make sure that we receive accurate numbers, but we're working with that committee to see what we can do. So this is going to continue to be a part part of what we're working on in this coming year. We are also working with Carly, which is an academic library consortia who receives delivery service to our ILDS program. That's a contracted service that happens both for Rails and our sister system, Heartland. The contract is up and we are discussing a lot of the details of that contract, including turnaround time. One thing that happens is that the Carly group receives a 24-hour turnaround time compared to 48 hours for the rest of the group. But what that requires is for us to run an overnight shuttle across the state every evening in order to meet that 24-hour turnaround time. There's a lot of efficiencies that could potentially be realized if we were able to move to a 48-hour turnaround time, but that requires a lot of negotiation because it's potentially a loss of service for that group. So we've been working on this in earnest, but this is something we'll continue to work on in the coming year. We're also looking at implementation of new delivery training staff training models, like we mentioned, the EDI training that's coming, and making sure that that safety training is coming to them with the specifics of their positions and jobs, and then continuing to explore efficiencies related to delivery through things like GeoMark, who does the efficiency mapping of our routes, and making sure that we're always doing that and that we're working with our jobber CTL, who provides some of the training through outsourced delivery, making sure that we have the best options available with them. So that work will continue in earnest. Library programs, this is some of the work that Layla told you about. So deals and discounts, which is our negotiations that we have that uses economies of scale to make sure our libraries can save money on the electronic resources that they need. eRead Illinois, which provides access to ebooks and audiobooks to many, many, many libraries. It's a huge program that we have offered through Boundless, and that we saw a lot of growth through the pandemic. So we're continuing to make sure that that program is serving our members well. And Explore More Illinois, which is our cultural path program, continuing to grow both the participation in that program as well as the attractions. We had a really exciting change last year when Chicago Public Library came on board, and that really changed the usage as well as the attractions. So we're continuing to work with them and our partners at Heartland to look at a potential rebranding for that program so that we can make sure we're really reaching as many people as possible as that program continues to grow. And then, as Layla mentioned, Find More Illinois moved under her umbrella in that library programs group. And so we're going to be continuing to see how the Find More Illinois program, which had huge growth last year as the CCS consortia came on board with Find More, how we can continue to make sure that that program is supporting as many members as it can and doing what we want it to be able to do, as well as providing support for the Illinois State Library statewide database program. As we mentioned, that's all going to roll out in earnest this year. And so anything we can do to kind of help them with that project and getting the word out is going to be an important priority. In our strategic plan, goal 2 is all around equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. And if you look at our operational plan, which is all organized by those strategic plan goals, you'll see a lot about equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility there. Just at the very end of this last fiscal year, it became really apparent to us that our libraries needed a lot of support on web accessibility. There's a lot of need for that across Illinois based on some of these new changes that happened through Title II changes, as well as some of the initiatives that were happening across the state that saw some libraries receive legal challenges on their lack of web accessibility. So we've really tried to ramp up the support that we have available for that. We have a whole Pulse page that's developed that is devoted to web accessibility right now, and we are continuing to add those resources all the time. We've got great continuing education programming, including one this week that's focused on how libraries can become more accessible, and we're going to continue to add to that profile. Internally, we're also forming a Rails accessibility working group where we can make sure that our own services are accessible as possible, and then we make sure we're following best practice and leadership as it relates to that. Continuing to promote and evaluate the Freedom Lifted program, which is an asynchronous training that's related to social justice in libraries, focused on equity, diversity, and inclusion as it pertains to library-specific elements. We had a launch for that program last year, and it was great to be able to offer that. What we'd like to do is to see some more adoption and use in that program. So we're trying to engage the membership to make sure that they know about it and promote it. So that's a great service to look at. If you haven't looked at it before, it's one we really want to get the word out about this year. And then, of course, continued training for our Rails staff and members related to equity, diversity, and inclusion, continuing that full equity of the Rails personnel manual. That personnel manual policy that we're looking at also involved an equity audit from our consultant, Biz Lindsay Ryan, and then continued work from our board committee and our internal climate team that focuses on EDI. advocacy is of course always important, and this work does definitely happen through our Rails Advocacy Committee, but we also continue to support continuing the Illinois Library Association's legislative priorities. If you are interested in kind of making a legislative priority, the Illinois Library Association currently has a forum that's open, and they are requesting all of those legislative suggestions come in by August 1st. So now is a great time to be looking at that. The Public Policy Committee of the Illinois Library Association evaluates and looks at all of those suggestions that come in and choose their legislative priorities beginning early in the fall. Once they choose those, it goes on to the Illinois Executive Board, who will then vote on the priorities for the Illinois Library Association, and they'll be rolled out to legislators as their priorities for the coming year in this fall. So that's all kind of happening right now. And it's really important to Rails to keep all of our members engaged in understanding all the pieces that are happening around that. In addition to the kinds of initiatives that come through the Illinois Library Association, where I serve as ex officio, we have seen in the last couple of years, Secretary of State Alexi Janulius introduced legislation with his team. So we try to support that legislation as well to make sure our members know and are aware and know how to support it, as well as ISLE, which is that the school library advocacy group. They're looking at legislation around the potential to make sure that there are certified school librarians in every school. And so they're working on that in earnest right now. And so we want to support those efforts as well. So there's a lot happening legislatively at the moment. And so Rails is continuing to do a lot to make sure that we can focus on how we can get people who want to be involved, knowing how they can be most supportive and helpful. Grant support for libraries. This is a huge part of what Rails offers that really increases resource sharing across the state. So our My Library Is grants, this helps libraries to tell their story. This last year, we went back to the grants being offered in a multi-type environment so that libraries of any type have the potential to receive these grants. If you want to look at all the ways that people have used that money to help to increase their library's profile, I encourage you to take a look at the My Library Is website on Rails. You can really go through all these individual stories and really show all the creative ways that our members are using this grant funding to really make sure that they are offering what they can to tell their community what they're doing. We also offer a certain level of continuing education grants. This is a great opportunity for libraries that want to offer some kind of additional training to their staff, but also bring in other Rails members and get some financial support for doing that. So that's one way we can do it, is through this grant process. We also offer catalog membership grants, which allow some financial support for people who are interested in joining those shared catalog LSAPs, as well as our LSAP support grants, which is the financial support that we give to the consortia each year in order to help them move their own operations forward. And then we have made it a huge focus over the last couple of years to increase our collaboration with all of our statewide partners. We believe very strongly that we can do more when we do our work together. So that first one is our Partnership for School Libraries. This work has been happening in earnest over the last few years and involves a lot of folks who are doing this work together. So it's us, but it also involves support from the Illinois State Library, from ISLE, of course, from the Illinois Heartland Library System, from the Illinois Library Association, and we all meet monthly to talk about the kind of support that can be offered to school libraries and move that forward. A lot of initiatives have come out of that group over the last couple of years, including the potential for this legislation for certified libraries. So we're going to continue our work with that group in earnest. We are also doing some really exciting work that Ann Slaughter is spearheading with our Coalition for Broadband and Digital Equity. That work is happening with our Illinois Heartland Library System and Carly to continue to find ways that we can support both our members and folks all across Illinois to know about these important federal initiatives that are currently happening, as well as potentially suggest ways, even legislatively, that our state can support libraries in the midst of this funding availability. The Illinois State Library Advisory Council is a sort of older group that went dormant for a little while, but they came back in the last year or two. And so we are involved with that group in terms of making sure that our perspectives as system members are shared with them. That group meets every other month. We also, I just joined Dominican University's School of Information Science Advisory Board. That's another group that had been dormant for a bit, but they are being resurrected. And so we're there to kind of help support what the needs of MLIS program might be from the perspective of the systems. And then I personally have regular meetings with staff, including for Commissioner Brown at Chicago Public Library, with Greg McCormick at the Illinois State Library, and then certainly have lots of meetings with Carly, Heartland, and the Illinois Library Association. So that's kind of what we wanted to share. It's a lot, and I've been talking for a long time, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then just ask, is there anything that came out of operational plan, any questions, anything that anybody wants to note or know?
Without even a sip of water, too.
Oh, I was waiting for that. It'll happen. It'll happen. Okay, well, I mean, we wanted to make sure that you saw that. I'll go back to the folder just to make sure we see everything else that's in there so we don't miss anything. There is a memo about mileage reimbursement. We'll talk again about some of that travel, but there is a copy of a reimbursement form in your folder that you can take a look at, and we'll talk a little more later about how to do that. There's also a form that's a conflict of interest form. So just like your kind of board job description, that's one we might be coming for you to get a signature and make sure that we have on file. So you want to take a look at that conflict of interest form and see to make sure that we're compliant in that way. We have also included this brochure, which kind of goes through in general what Rails does. You can take a look at that and see what some of these kinds of pieces that have been included there are. We've also got a copy of our strategic plan. Everything in Rails flows from the strategic plan. So the report that you receive every single month will receive updates on the strategic plan. My evaluation is organized according to the strategic plan. The way that we send in our operational plan to the Illinois State Library comes from the goals that are established by the strategic plan. So you'll hear about it a ton, but it is really important to us in terms of how we organize our work and how we prioritize the things that come to us in terms of suggestions that come from membership and making sure that we're supporting those pieces. You'll see that this strategic plan does go through 2025. So starting in next fiscal year, we'll be talking more about our next strategic planning process, but for now we're focused on the one that you have there. We have also included, if you're a wonk and love policy or legislative pieces, you can see the Illinois Library laws and rules that are included. That includes kind of all the administrative code rules that are related to the work that we do here at Rails. So you can take a look at some of those. Joe really knows a lot about this. If you have any questions related to that, there's some really good information in there. Similarly included is the Illinois Library System Act. This is the part of the law that specifically relates to the systems or the work that we do here at Rails. And so there are things that are in this System Act that are things that we don't have any control over. So if we got a suggestion, for instance, in terms of the makeup of the board, there are things that are listed in the System Act that are not changeable by us because it's something that's in law. So it's just a good thing to be aware of and to know. There is also Public Act 1020843, which includes the Illinois Local Library Act. So again, a lot of law and legislation, but it's a big part of what shows why we do what we do and what some of the decision making has been. There's also a policy on meeting via electronic means. We will talk again a little bit more about this in just a moment, but we just wanted to make sure that you had a copy of this policy so you understand when we are asking for specific things around our meetings and posting agendas and all of that, that it's all listed there if you need to look at it. And then finally, I couldn't resist including this. We just got this yesterday. This is that Agencies of Impact data report that's related to the value of libraries. This just came in. We're actually going to have a longer form presentation about this at our August meeting, but since you're here and there's a physical copy, we wanted to make sure that you had access to this. This includes, again, all of these infographics about what libraries are doing in Illinois and the support that's happening there. We're really excited about the potential for the audiences that might be interested in some of this information and how we can share the kind of work that's happening across all different types of service. So that is everything that is in your folder. Are there any questions about anything related to your orientation folder?
Are we also getting a digital file of this one?
There is a digital file that will be available, yeah.
Number 5, Rails Board Meeting 101. Back to Monica.
So promise this part will go a little quicker. So we just want to kind of go over some of the basics of how to do things. Emily and I will switch off on some of the things that we're sharing. So Today, you will be voting on the board meeting calendar for our next fiscal year. In the past, we have tried to travel to some different locations, and so we may be coming to the board with their appetite for that. But typically, we've done 2 to 3 board meetings at other locations throughout the Rails service area, just to give the board a chance to see some of the other spaces that Rails covers. And also, we've done some networking meetings sometimes before the meeting to give libraries who are in the area a chance to come together and meet Rails staff and the board. So we will be talking about that a little bit later in the year, but wanted to make you aware that that is something that is a possibility. We definitely need quorums to hold meetings. That is a really important part of what we do. As we mentioned earlier, there is a policy on meetings via electronic means that is included in the packet. But since Rails covers such a large geographic area, the Open Meetings Act does allow that the systems can have board and committee members attend meetings by means other than physical presence, which means that we do have a virtual option. But it has to be a quorum that's physically present in coordination with the Open Meetings Act. So what that means is that if you cannot attend in person at the place that you have told us that you are attending, any admin team member can assist you in making sure that you are in a position to be counted in the quorum. So Emily and her team have it down. They'll be able to tell you all the different ways that you can be counted for quorum, but be in communication with them about how and where you intend to attend the meeting.
So there's a few ways you can attend Rails board or committee meetings. The first is at one of Rails service centers. So obviously, if we have a quorum here, and we can have some people in East Peoria, we can have people in Coal Valley, we can have people in Bolingbrook. If you can't make it all the way here, that's fine. And for every meeting, we will confirm where you're going to attend, because we want to make sure that if you're attending in Coal Valley or East Peoria, that you are counted for there.
Is the new Rockford location set up for that?
Yeah.
I'm not picky.
But well, there's
Yeah,
more.
then you would.
There's more ways. Go ahead.
Okay, no, you.
I'll sit on a box.
You would be able to attend the meeting from there, yes.
But again, we
But
have to make
also-
sure that there's staff there to open it up and everything. So that's why we need to know ahead of time. You can also attend via Zoom at a publicly accessible room at your library, which I was getting to. So if you have a conference room at your library and you can post the agenda 48 hours ahead of time, and we can list that as a location for the meeting, you're welcome to attend there. And, you know, a lot of our committee members just do that as a matter of course. They would it's just easier to leave. You cannot attend in your office with your door closed and be counted as part of the quorum. You cannot attend in your hotel room or your park bench. It has to be a publicly location at a publicly accessible building, and the agenda has to be posted 48 hours ahead of time. And it has to be a location on our agenda. The third way is you can do a conference call or Zoom call from your office or a park bench or wherever you would like, but then you are not counted as part of the quorum. So it has to be in person at a publicly accessible location. And if you ever have any questions, me or any of my member of my team can answer these questions. So, but we will usually ask you about a week ahead of time where you're going to attend so that we can make sure that we coordinate. And if you have video equipment at your library that needs to be tested, we can do that, and we can test it with IT as well to make sure everything's working. So, and we've never had this problem, but we want to be kind of the poster child for OMA, so that we do everything right, so that our members are doing everything correctly as well. So, you know, if a member of the public wants to attend the Rails board meeting at your library, then you say, come on in, and here's my laptop, or here's the screen, or we'll just share that. So we're just trying to make sure that we go by OMA as easily as possible. But again, any questions with that, me or any of my member of my team can help out. I just sent, and you also have in your packet, the travel reimbursement form. This is pre-populated with the state mileage reimbursement amount. If that changes, we will send you a new one. It is, all the math is done. It's pre-populated on there. All you have to put in your mileage. and this is for any Rails event that you attend. You send that to me. When I send that on to finance, that's the okay that, yes, I know Amanda has attended a board meeting and she gets reimbursed. And this also is for board meetings, committee meetings. It can be for ILA or any kind of event like that you're attending on behalf of Rails. And be sure to include your address so we can send the check to your home address. Any questions on that?
I think recently the policy included that you cannot be driving, right?
Yes.
During a meeting, a committee meeting?
Yes, during
Well,
any
probably
open
board
meeting.
meeting too,
Technically. Yeah. We made a revision to the policy about the policy via electronic means to reflect the current change in the law that you cannot be participating in any public meeting while you're driving via Zoom. Yes.
And I have no comment in regards to committee meeting by Zoom in my car.
Did you go to the Faircon meeting?
The recent one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The golf course, probably.
I don't know if it was recorded though.
Emily, can you do the update on the travel reimbursement? Or I guess that we're done with that, right? Okay, sorry. How to participate and contribute to board meetings. So we do create an annotated agenda for all of our committee chairs. And so what that does is essentially create like a guide or a script for all of the meetings to go through. So the chair will ask for a motion and a second. And so then if you want to move, you can say, so moved Monica, and anybody who or so moved your name. And then another person can reply, second Emily. And so that's all. You don't have to restate the motion. It's there in the agenda so that if you want to move, you can just say so moved. Then the chair will ask for a discussion or a vote. So after a report, staff and board members will ask if there's any questions. You are free to ask any questions at any time during the meeting that you would like to ask. But we just want to give you a little sense of the structure of how that typically works here. So any questions about contributing or how to best contribute in a board meeting? Your contributions are extremely important. These are the times that we have you together. And so we want to encourage that. So anything that you have questions about or you want to say, don't hold back if you have something that you want to share. So next is our video conference locations and sensitive microphones.
Chances are, if you have a question, someone else has the same question. Asking it. So video conference locations and sensitive microphones. As you can see, we have video and audio equipment in all of our locations. These black little pads are microphones, and they will pick up anything. They will pick up chewing. They will pick up, even though we don't hear it, it will be on the recording. Paper rustling, candy wrappers, anything like that. So pretending like you're at a Broadway show, eating chips, yes. We've recently added closed captioning to our board and committee meetings. So you can, if you can't hear something, it'll be on the screen as well. And we of course discourage sidebar because those will be picked up as well as they're distracting to the rest of the committee of the meeting. I think that's it. So email accounts.
So email account exchanges related to your board service are subject to FOIA, which means that any kind of thing that is written in your email can be disclosed via a Freedom of Information Act request. So for that reason, you have a Rails email address for use for all Rails board business. And that's just to make sure that in the event of any type of FOIA request, our awesome IT department will download all of the emails and submit them. If you're using a separate email address, work or personal, you'd have to go through all of those emails separately and submit them. So we try to make sure we're avoiding any of those situations by encouraging you to use your Rails board email. We have had FOIA requests in the past, just so you're aware. Emily included some examples. So one person wanted all emails from 3 months from 15 different people that contain the words thanks or thank you. So it can be anything. So just be aware of that, heading into that, and just make sure you're using those.
That was years ago, but guess what? We didn't have to do a thing because IT did it In about 5 minutes, you know, it was a beautiful thing.
Any more?
No more thank yous.
They could just as easily do and the.
And just related to your email addresses, so we very recently had new email signatures added for all staff and now board. This is really great, but it was just added for some of you so that if you, for some reason, as part of your setup, had something on your own mobile device where you added your own signature, or you have a signature that says something like, you know, from my iPhone, you'll need to delete that in order to make sure that the signature goes through the way that it's intended. If you need any help at all in looking at this or just double checking to make sure that it looks the way that it should, do not hesitate to contact our IT teams that are working. You can do that at the break today or anytime you'd like, and we'll make sure that everything's set up the way that it needs to be.
Monica, can I mention?
Of course.
This happens. Before, when we have like a dual, what's that called?
Duo mobile, yes.
Yeah, so it's like you sign in and then it sends you a code and you have to press on your phone that you or whatever. It's kind of a pain in the neck, but it really does work because I received something from Alex once who was asking me for some information. And I know he would never ask me for that kind of information. So I contacted him separately, not through that email, but just like if you get a bill from Amazon and they want your payment, you don't click on that ever. You know, you go to your Amazon account separately and check. So the Duo thingy really took a lot of that out. But if you ever get an email that's questionable to you, make a phone call first before you would answer it, just until you get used to the kind of emails that you get.
And IT sends us out to our staff regularly. It can go to you too. Monica, Joe, no one on our staff will ever ask you to buy a gift card for anyone or two. And if that happens, do not contact them. Contact IT right away. Go ahead.
I can add something. All emails that come to you from outside the organization will have a red banner across the top. You know, it doesn't mean it's bad. It means it's not us. So if you see a bit of like Mimecast warnings and this is an external email, you know, people can make their email look like, you know, almost anything. They can make their signature look like anything. But that red banner just means it's from an outside source. So look for it and be aware that, you know, if it says that, hey, this is Monica, and you see that red banner, it's not. You know, so just a clear notification of its, you know, just be a little more, you know, suspicious of it.
Thanks to the team and for Karen for bringing this up, because this does come up from time to time where you may receive something that, and it often is like, hey, I'm busy right now, but can you pick up 6 Xbox gift certificates for me? It's stuff like that.
For some reason, it's always, can you contact me on my cell? Because then they want to take it away from our server and they're like, sure, what do you need? You know.
So we will provide at least one cybersecurity training to the board every year that will go through all of the things that there's potential to, but we just want to make sure that you all receive this information right away, just in case any contact comes. And if you ever have a question, do not hesitate to just pick up the phone and call. You can call me directly and just say, hey, did you just email me? This was a little weird. I will never be offended by that. We just want to make sure everybody has the right information.
You do not know any like poor princes.
No.
Hopefully not coming from me in that direction.
Rich princes that are poor right now.
Yeah.
Oh, we're looking.
Always on the lookout.
Good to know. Thank you.
Okay, next is the importance of checking email regularly and responding promptly. Usually the board meeting or committee meeting packets are sent a week before the meeting. There'll be times we need to communicate in between those meetings about many different things. So we ask you to check your email regularly. Rails IT can set up an email on your phone, tablet, or laptop that can be easily accessed and get an alert on your device to say, hey, you have an email from Rails. It's important that you reply to emails. Staff needs to plan meals, sometimes hotels, and we also, of course, need to make sure that we have a quorum because nobody wants to come to a meeting and then say, oh, we can't have this meeting because we don't have a quorum. So.
Emily will.
And Renee is going to say that we will all bug you until you respond.
Make sure you submit your miles.
Can I make a
Sure.
question too? When I first got on the board, tried to auto forward my emails to my work email so that I'd see them right away. That's not a good idea. There's a violation there with the board email. So in case you were thinking of maybe doing that, no.
Any other questions related to email for the board? Again, anything that comes up, just as you think of it, don't hesitate to let us know. Finally, just about adhering to the Open Meetings Act and certification for the Open Meetings Act. So when you receive an email from Rails staff or any fellow board member, please refrain from using the reply all option. I know all of you are probably familiar with this, but that's to avoid violations of the Open Meetings Act that would declare that kind of reply all email as a public meeting. If you have information you'd like to go to all the board members, send it to Emily or any member of the admin team. They can then send that message out to everybody else. So that's typically how we avoid that reply all option. If you forget and you do send a reply all message, it will not go through. We have it set up so if you reply all, no one else will receive it. So the best way to make sure that everybody else gets the information is to send it directly to Emily. Emily will get a notice asking her to allow or deny an email. So even if it is something like really simple, like, hey, see you all soon at the next meeting, it'll be denied just to get you out of the habit of that kind of a reply all option.
Can Brian teach me how to set that up?
But yeah.
That should be a little mini class.
That's the opportunity. I think it's a really useful option. Yes.
We're actually talking at, I think it was, I don't remember. Oh, it was at the Rails Memory Meetup in Freeport about Outlook things. That would be useful.
That's a great idea.
The reply all denial is part of our, all the board members are on a listserv. So on the listserv, we deny reply all.
But if I put in everyone individually, that won't work. But if I use our listserv, that's how it works. But you can send, if you want to put everybody's email individually, there's no way we can stop that.
Don't.
Thank you, Alex. Any other questions related to any of the pieces that Emily and I were just sharing about meetings?
Can I just return to the microphones? The microphones are sensitive. If you think you're whispering to somebody, it's gonna pick it up and you think it's the conversation between the two of you, but everybody online can hear you. So just be very careful.
Even like rustling papers can be very loud if you're near a microphone, and we'll hear about it, especially from people who are trying to view the live stream, and it makes it really hard for them to understand or follow the action of the meeting.
I want to see anyone embarrassment.
All right, I think that brings us to Q&A. Does anyone have questions about any of the things we've talked about today?
When do we need to pick a committee?
So we will be in contact relatively soon in August, because we're going to be trying, it's up to the president of the board to set the chairs of each committee, and then we'll be in contact about you. But if you have an interest in a committee, let the staff know so that we're aware, and that is part of what can help us know where the openings are and what still needs some additional help. So if you have an interest in a particular one, or if you want to send us a priority that says something like, here's my top 3 choices, I'm interested in 1 committee, or I'm interested in 2 committees, you can let us know all of that information, and that will help us figure out where everybody fits in.
We're going to ask about that at the full board meeting. Else.
Okay, in the past, some of our veteran board members have offered to serve as mentors for incoming board members. So if anyone is interested in either serving as a mentor or being a mentee, please let staff know. Emily can help connect people. And I think I speak for all the board members. We're always happy to answer any questions, even informally. So please feel free to reach out to us or to staff if you need anything at all. Other than that, does anyone have any additional questions about service on the Rails board or anything they'd like to share before we adjourn?
I have just a couple of housekeeping things I just want to mention for our day today. So If you need help with your email signature, or if there's anything else that you'd like to do, Ryan is available during our break. If you have not had your photo taken, or if you'd like to have your photo retaken, Ola is available, and we'll get that anytime in this break that we're about to have until our meeting begins at 1 o'clock. You can get your photo taken. We can have that available for you. Ola is currently out in the area, but she'll be walking around with her camera, and as soon as we open the door, she'll be available. In fact, she's available at any time.
Action shots.
No. We have it a whole setup. Don't worry. But
I know.
But Ola will be taking some photos during our business meeting this afternoon that will be shared with social media. So just wanted to make you aware, Ola will be around with her camera taking pictures of all the new board members today to make sure that the Rails membership knows about all of you. And then finally, I will give a tour of the Burr Ridge building. If anyone would like a tour, we'll do that at 11:45. I'll meet you right out in front of this door. If you'd like a tour, you're not required to go on a tour, but if you'd like, we'll be giving one at that point. So any questions about any of that for today? And then lunch will arrive sometime noon-ish, and we'll let you know as soon as. Oh, it is here. Okay, fantastic.
I do have a question, not about that, but about the OMA training that we have to complete within 90 days.
Yes.
I will send you the link, and if you've already have a certificate, you can just send that certificate to me.
That was my question.
Good. Thank you, Amanda.
You don't want to take it for.
Just for fun. Did it for the year.
Long.
Great question. Okay. Any other questions?
All right. Well, if there's nothing further, then this meeting is adjourned at 11:23. We'll see you all back here at 1 o'clock for the regular board meeting. Thank you.